My brave knight, guard this innocent life.
With my life, my lady.
I know.
The queen studied me carefully, then whispered, "My daughter has made her choice. The mining ship Horizon's Edge was never meant to crash." Commander Marcus Cole had flown through asteroid fields, solar storms, and pirate territories for 15 years without a single major accident. But space had a way of humbling even the most experienced pilots. The malfunction came without warning. One moment, Marcus was checking the navigation systems. The next moment, alarms screamed through the ship. Red lights flashed everywhere. The engine core had failed completely. "All crew to escape pods," Marcus shouted into the ship's communication system. His voice was calm, but his heart raced. 12 people depended on him. 12 families were waiting for them back on Earth. The crew moved fast. Years of training took over. One by one, the escape pods launched into the darkness of space. Marcus watched them go, counting each one. 11 pods, 11 lives saved. He was the last one left. The ship was falling now, pulled by the gravity of a nearby planet. Marcus had seconds to reach the final escape pod. He ran through smoke-filled corridors, jumping over broken metal and sparking wires. The heat was intense. His lungs burned with each breath. He made it to the pod with 3 seconds to spare. The door sealed behind him, and the pod launched just as the Horizon's Edge exploded into a ball of fire. Marcus watched his ship die. 15 years of memories, gone in an instant. But he was alive. That was what mattered. The escape pod's computer calculated his trajectory. When Marcus read the destination, his blood turned cold. Velathari Prime. Every human child learned about the Velathari in school. They were ancient beings, older than most civilizations in the galaxy. Their bodies were made of living crystal, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They stood 9 feet tall and lived for thousands of years. Their technology was far beyond anything humans had achieved. But the most important lesson about the Velathari was simple: stay away from them. The Velathari viewed other species as insects, primitive creatures not worthy of their attention. Humans had only been traveling through space for 300 years. To the Velathari, humanity was like a baby taking its first steps. Amusing, perhaps. Definitely not important. Ships that entered Velathari space without permission were never seen again. Marcus tried to change the pod's direction, but it was useless. The navigation system was damaged. He could only watch as the crystal planet grew larger and larger in his viewport. The landing was rough. The pod crashed through strange purple trees and slid across ground that sparkled like diamonds. When it finally stopped, Marcus sat in silence for a long moment. He was alive, but for how long? He opened the pod door and stepped outside. The air was thin but breathable. The sky above was 3 different colors: pink, gold, and deep purple, all swirling together like paint in water. The ground beneath his feet was solid crystal, smooth and cold. Everywhere he looked, there were structures made of the same crystal. Towers reached toward the sky. Bridges connected buildings that floated in the air. It was the most beautiful place Marcus had ever seen. It was also the most dangerous. They found him within an hour. The Velathari soldiers moved without sound. One moment Marcus was alone, the next he was surrounded by 6 crystalline giants. Their bodies reflected the strange light of their world, creating rainbows wherever they stepped. They had no mouths, no noses, just smooth faces with eyes that glowed like stars. Marcus raised his hands slowly. "I come in peace," he said, knowing how foolish the words sounded. "My ship crashed. I am not here to cause trouble." The soldiers did not respond. They simply watched him with those glowing eyes. Then one of them touched a crystal on its arm, and Marcus felt something cold wrap around his wrists. Energy chains made of pure light. They took him deeper into the crystal city. Marcus expected a prison cell, or maybe a quick execution. What he did not expect was a laboratory. The room was filled with strange machines and floating screens. Glass containers lined the walls, and inside them, Marcus could see specimens from dozens of different species. Some were alive, suspended in glowing liquid. Others were clearly dead, preserved for study. He realized with horror what he was: a specimen, something to be studied and archived. A new Velithari entered the room. This one was different from the soldiers, smaller, though still much taller than Marcus. Her crystalline form was a pale blue color, like ice under moonlight. She moved with grace and curiosity, circling Marcus like a scientist examining a new discovery. "Fascinating," she said. Her voice was like wind chimes, musical and cold. "A human. I have read about your species, but I have never seen one in person." "My name is Marcus Cole," he said. "I am a commander in the Human Coalition mining fleet. My ship crashed here by accident. I request permission to contact my people." The Velithari tilted her head. "Request denied. You are now property of the Royal Archives. I am Princess Sithara, 7th daughter of Queen Vaelindra. You belong to me. Property." The word hit Marcus like a punch to the stomach, but he did not let his fear show. He had faced death many times before. He would not give her the satisfaction of seeing him break. "I belong to no one," he said quietly. Sithara's eyes flickered with something. Surprise, perhaps, or curiosity. No specimen had ever spoken to her like that before. They usually begged, or cried, or simply went silent with terror. This human did none of those things. He stood straight, looked her directly in the eyes, and spoke with dignity. "Interesting," Sithara said. "Perhaps you will be more valuable than I first thought. Tell me, human, what makes your species special? Why should I not simply add you to my collection and forget about you?" Marcus thought about the question. He thought about Earth, about humanity's long history of struggle and survival. He thought about the explorers who had crossed oceans in wooden ships, the scientists who had unlocked the secrets of the atom, the ordinary people who had rebuilt civilizations after wars and disasters. "Because," Marcus said, "humans never give up. You can cage us, study us, even kill us, but you will never understand us by looking at us through glass. We are not insects, princess. We are survivors. And we have stories that would take you 1,000 years to hear." Sithara was silent for a long moment. Then, slowly, she smiled. "Then start talking, human. I have plenty of time." 3 months passed on Velithari Prime. Marcus Cole was still a prisoner, but his cage had become something unexpected. Instead of a glass container, he lived in a small room attached to Princess Sithara's laboratory. Instead of being studied like a dead specimen, he was asked questions every day. Hundreds of questions about humanity, about Earth, about the strange way humans lived and thought and felt. At first, Marcus answered carefully. He gave simple facts, basic information that any textbook could provide. But Sithara was not interested in textbooks. She wanted stories. So Marcus told her stories. He told her about his grandmother, who had survived a terrible earthquake when she was young. The old woman had been trapped under broken buildings for 3 days. No food, no water, no hope of rescue. But she had refused to die. She had talked to herself, sung songs, and remembered every happy moment of her life. When the rescue teams finally found her, she was weak, but smiling. Why was she smiling? Sithara asked, confused. She almost died. That is not logical. Because she survived, Marcus explained. Humans celebrate survival. We find joy in overcoming impossible situations. It is how we keep going. Sithara did not understand. But she wanted to understand, and that wanting changed everything. The princess had studied hundreds of alien species before. She had filled countless reports with data and observations, but she had never felt curious about any of them. They were just specimens, interesting for a moment, then forgotten. Marcus was different. He made her laugh with his strange human jokes. He made her think with his philosophical questions. He made her feel emotions that Velithari were supposed to control and suppress. This was dangerous. Sithara knew it. Her people valued logic above all else. Emotions were considered weaknesses, flaws in the crystalline perfection of their minds. A princess who felt emotions was a princess who could be manipulated. But she could not stop listening to Marcus's stories. One evening, Marcus told her about human music. He explained how sounds and rhythms could make people cry or dance or fall in love. Sithara found this impossible to believe. "Prove it," she said. Marcus had nothing. No instruments, no recordings, but he had his voice. So he sang. It was a simple song, one his mother had sung to him when he was a child. A lullaby about stars and dreams and the promise of tomorrow. His voice was rough and imperfect, nothing like the mathematical precision of Velethari communication. But when he finished, Sithara's crystalline form was flickering with colors she could not control. Blues and purples and soft pinks, emotions made visible in her very body. "What is happening to me?" she whispered. "You are feeling," Marcus said gently. "It is not a weakness, princess. It is a gift." From that night forward, everything changed between them. Word spread through the Crystal Palace. The servants noticed first. They saw Princess Sithara spending more time with her human specimen than with her research. They saw her asking strange questions about feelings and stories and music. They saw the colors in her crystal form changing in ways that were not normal. Then her sisters noticed. Sithara had 6 older sisters, each one competing for their mother's favor. In the Velethari royal family, power was everything. The queen would eventually choose her successor, and every princess wanted to be chosen. They watched each other constantly, looking for weaknesses to exploit. Princess Catheris, the eldest, was the most dangerous. She had cold, white crystal skin and eyes like frozen stars. She had been the favorite for centuries, the most logical, the most ruthless, the most perfect Velethari princess. When Catheris learned about Sithara's attachment to the human, she smiled. "Our little sister has finally made a mistake," she told the other princesses. "This is the opportunity we have been waiting for." The sisters brought the matter to the queen. Queen Valinda was ancient beyond human understanding. She had lived for 4,000 years, ruling the Dominion through wars and rebellions and countless political schemes. Her crystal form was deep purple, almost black, with veins of gold running through like lightning frozen in time. She sat on the crystal throne, a massive chair carved from a single diamond that was older than most civilizations. Around her stood advisors, priests, and military commanders, the most powerful beings in 3 star systems, all waiting for her judgment. "Bring my daughter," the queen commanded, "and bring the human." Marcus had never felt fear like this before. The throne room was enormous, a cathedral of crystal and light. Every surface reflected and multiplied, making the room seem infinite. Thousands of Velethari nobles watched from elevated platforms, their glowing eyes fixed on the small human walking toward their queen. Sithara walked beside him. Her crystal form was carefully controlled now, showing no emotion, but Marcus could see the slight tremor in her hands. She was afraid too. They stopped at the base of the throne. Marcus looked up at Queen Vailindra and felt the weight of her 4,000 years pressing down on him. This was a being who had seen empires rise and fall. To her, human civilization was barely a heartbeat old. "So," the queen said, her voice echoing through the chamber, "this is the creature that has corrupted my daughter." The advisors murmured in agreement. The high priest stepped forward, his crystal form covered in ancient symbols. "The human must be destroyed, Your Majesty. Princess Sithara must undergo purification rituals to cleanse her mind of this contamination." Military commanders nodded. "Showing weakness to humans will invite their expansion into our space. They are like insects. Ignore them, and they multiply." Caetheris smiled from her position near the throne. "Perhaps Sithara is not fit for royal duties anymore. Perhaps she should be removed from the succession entirely." The other sisters murmured their agreement. Marcus watched all of this, his mind racing. He was going to die. That was almost certain now. But maybe, just maybe, he could save Sithara before the end. He stepped forward. The guards moved to stop him, but the queen raised her hand. "The human wishes to speak," she said. "How amusing." "Very well, creature. What words do you offer before your death?" Marcus took a deep breath. He looked at the ancient queen, at her tired eyes and heavy crown. He saw something that the Velethari nobles could not see, because they were not looking. "Your Majesty," Marcus said, When was the last time someone in this court told you the truth without fearing death? The throne room went completely silent. The queen's eyes narrowed. For a long moment, Marcus was certain she would order his immediate execution. But then, something strange happened. Queen Valindra leaned forward on her throne. Her ancient eyes studied Marcus with new interest. And for just a moment, the mask of the immortal ruler cracked, revealing something underneath: loneliness. "Continue," she said quietly. The throne room remained silent. Every Velethari noble watched with shock as the small human stood before their ancient queen, unbroken and unafraid. Marcus knew he had only one chance. One moment to change everything. "Your Majesty," he said, "I have been in your daughter's laboratory for 3 months. I have seen how your people live. I have watched your nobles and your servants and your soldiers, and I have noticed something that perhaps you already know." Queen Valindra's eyes glowed brighter. "And what is that, human?" "Everyone in this room is afraid of you," Marcus said. "They bow and they obey, and they say what you want to hear, but none of them tell you the truth. None of them treat you like a person. To them, you are a throne, a crown, a power to be feared, but you are also alone. More alone than any being I have ever seen." Gasps filled the chamber. Several advisors called for Marcus's immediate death. Princess Kytharis stepped forward, her white crystal form blazing with anger. "This creature insults our queen," Kytharis shouted. "Execute him now." But Queen Violindra raised her hand, and everyone fell silent. "Continue," she said again. Her voice was softer now, curious. Marcus glanced at Sithara. She was watching him with wide eyes, her crystal form flickering with fear and hope. He turned back to the queen. "Princess Sithara did not become corrupted by spending time with me," Marcus said. "She simply remembered something your people have forgotten. She remembered how to feel, how to be curious without purpose, how to laugh at silly things, how to connect with another being, not because it is useful, but because it brings joy." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "Your Majesty, I am not important. I am just a mining commander from a young species. But what happened between me and your daughter? That is important, because it proves that your people and mine can understand each other. We can learn from each other. We can be more than enemies or strangers." The queen studied Marcus for a long moment. Her ancient face showed nothing, but her crystal form shifted colors slightly, deep purples mixing with hints of blue. "You speak of connection," she said slowly. "You speak of feelings and joy. These are dangerous words in my court, human. They are weaknesses that enemies can exploit." "With respect, Your Majesty," Marcus replied, "I think they are strengths that your people have forgotten how to use." The queen dismissed the court. Everyone left. The nobles, the advisors, the priests, even Kytharis and the other princesses. Only Marcus, Sithara, and the queen remained in the enormous throne room. Violindra descended from her throne. Up close, she was even more impressive and more terrifying. Her crystal form hummed with power accumulated over 4,000 years. She circled Marcus slowly, studying him from every angle. "You are either very brave or very foolish," she said. "Probably both," Marcus admitted. The queen made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Honest, at least. That is rare in my palace." She turned to Sithara. "My daughter, tell me the truth. What do you feel for this human?" Sithara's form flickered with nervous colors, but she stood straight and spoke clearly. "Mother, I have studied hundreds of species. I have filled thousands of reports with data and observations. But Marcus is the first being who has ever made me want to be more than a scientist. He has shown me that there is value in feelings, in stories, in connections that serve no logical purpose. I do not fully understand what I feel, but I know that I do not want him to die." The queen was silent for a long moment. Then she did something unexpected. She touched Sithara's face gently, a gesture of affection that Marcus had never seen a Velethari make. "Come with me," the queen said. "Both of you. There is something you must see." The queen led them deep into the palace, through corridors that even Sifara had never entered. They passed ancient doors sealed with powerful energy fields. They descended stairs carved from single crystals that glowed with inner light. Finally, they reached a hidden chamber. The room was filled with records, holographic displays showing data and images from thousands of years of Velithari history. But one display dominated the center of the room. It showed a graph that went down, down, down over the centuries. "This is the secret of our people," the queen said quietly. "The truth that only rulers know." "What is it?" Sifara asked. "We are dying." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. "Our species requires something called resonance," the queen explained. "A deep connection between two minds. Without resonance, our crystal forms slowly break down. We lose our ability to think clearly. We become cold, logical machines, and then we shatter into dust." She gestured at the downward graph. For thousands of years, resonance was easy. Velithari bonded with Velithari, and our people thrived. But something changed. Our bonds grew weaker with each generation. Our children became colder, more isolated. The resonance that once sustained us is fading. Marcus looked at the data. "How long do your people have? At current rates, perhaps 2,000 years, maybe less." The queen turned to face them both. "I have watched this decline for centuries. I have tried everything to stop it. Nothing has worked." She looked directly at Marcus. "Until now." Sithara's form flickered with confusion. "Mother, what do you mean?" The queen walked to another display and activated it. Medical scans appeared, Marcus's brain patterns next to Sithara's crystal frequencies. "My scientists scanned you without your knowledge," the queen told Marcus. "They wanted to understand why my daughter was changing. What they discovered shocked them." The display showed the two patterns moving closer, synchronizing, becoming one. "Human minds can resonate with Velithari crystals," the queen said. "Not just resonate, amplify. The bond between you and my daughter is stronger than any Velithari pairing in recorded history." Marcus stared at the data. "That is why Sithara's feelings have been so intense. We have been bonding without knowing it." "Yes," the queen nodded slowly. "You, Marcus Cole, may be the key to saving my entire species." She turned to Sithara. "My daughter, I understand now why you have changed. It is not corruption. It is evolution. You have found something our people desperately need." The queen studied Marcus carefully for a long moment. This small human, this primitive creature from a young species. He had walked into her throne room expecting death. Instead, he had offered her something far more valuable than his life. He had offered hope. Queen Valindra made her decision. She leaned close to Marcus and whispered words that would change the galaxy forever. "My daughter has made her choice, and I will honor it." The queen's announcement shook the entire dominion. Princess Sithara would be allowed to bond with the human. Marcus Cole would be granted permanent residency on Velithari Prime. For the first time in history, an alien would be welcomed into the royal family. The news spread across 12 star systems within hours. Some Velithari celebrated quietly. They had felt the weakening of their bonds for generations. They had watched their children become colder, more distant, more alone. The queen's decision offered hope for a different future, but others were furious. Princess Kitharis stood in her private chamber, her white crystal form blazing with rage. Around her stood her 5 allied sisters, each one sharing her anger. "Our mother has lost her mind," Kitharis said. 4,000 years of rule, and she throws it all away for a human. A primitive creature that lives for barely a century. "This is madness." Princess Velrath, the second eldest, nodded her agreement. The bonding secret was supposed to remain hidden. Now the entire Dominion knows we are weakening. Our enemies will see this as an opportunity. "Worse than that," added Princess Mithara, the third sister. "If humans can bond with us, what does that make them? Our equals? Our partners? The entire foundation of our society will collapse." Kitharis turned to face her sisters. Her eyes glowed like cold stars. "Then we must act," she said. "Our mother is corrupted. She is no longer fit to rule. The ancient laws are clear. If a queen threatens the survival of our species, she can be removed. The sisters exchanged glances. What Kytheris was suggesting was dangerous. It was rebellion. It was war. But one by one, they nodded their agreement. Contact our allies in the military, Kytheris commanded. Tell them the time has come. We will save our people from our mother's foolishness, even if we must tear the Dominion apart to do it. The civil war began 3 days later. Kytheris and her sisters controlled nearly half the Dominion's military. They had spent centuries building alliances, placing loyal commanders in key positions. When they made their move, it was swift and devastating. 12 planets declared independence from Queen Vailindra. Hundreds of warships turned against their former allies. Communications were cut, supply lines were destroyed, and the Great Dominion, united for thousands of years, split in two. Marcus watched the reports from the palace with growing horror. Ships burning in space. Cities under attack. Velithari fighting Velithari with weapons that could shatter moons. This is my fault, he said quietly. If I had never crashed here, then we would still be dying slowly, Sithara interrupted. She stood beside him, her crystal form showing soft blue colors of sadness. Kytheris would have found another reason to rebel eventually. She has wanted the throne for centuries. You simply gave her an excuse. Queen Vailindra entered the room. She looked tired, something Marcus had never seen before. Even ancient beings could feel the weight of war. The Separatists are winning, she said bluntly. They have more ships, more soldiers, more resources. My generals give us 6 months before they reach this planet. There must be something we can do, Marcus said. Our strategies are failing. Kytheris knows all of them. She helped create them. She predicts our every move. The queen sat heavily in a chair, her crystal form dimming. For the first time in 4,000 years, I do not know how to save my people. Marcus was silent for a moment. His mind raced through possibilities, searching for solutions. He was not a soldier or a general. He was a mining commander. He had spent his life solving impossible problems in hostile environments. And suddenly, he had an idea. Your Majesty, he said. Kytheris predicts your moves because you think like Velithari. Logical, mathematical. Perfect strategies based on perfect calculations. The queen looked at him with tired eyes. Yes, it is how all Velithari think. But humans do not think that way. Marcus stepped forward, his eyes bright with sudden hope. Unpredictable. We do things that make no logical sense. We attack when we should retreat. We show mercy when we should destroy. We find solutions in places where logic says no solutions exist. Sithara's form flickered with understanding. You want to fight like a human. I want to fight in ways Kytheris cannot predict, Marcus said. Give me a ship. Let me contact the Human Coalition for volunteers. Let us show you what chaos can do. The queen studied him for a long moment. This is a desperate plan. Desperate times, Marcus replied with a small smile. 2 weeks later, Marcus led a tiny fleet into Separatist territory. His crew was small, 50 human volunteers from the coalition who had answered his call. They were miners, engineers, pilots, mechanics. None of them were soldiers, but they trusted Marcus with their lives. Their ship was called the Stubborn Hope. The Velithari thought it was a strange name. The humans understood perfectly. The first battle was at Kithro Station, a separatist supply base. Kytheris had positioned 50 warships to defend it. Her calculation showed that any attack would require at least 200 ships to succeed. Marcus attacked with 7. But he did not attack like a Velithari general. He attacked like a human. His miners used their equipment to create artificial asteroid fields, confusing enemy sensors. His engineers hacked into separatist communications and played loud human music, chaotic sounds that disrupted Velithari concentration. His pilots flew in patterns that no logical mind could predict, appearing where mathematics said they could not be. And when the separatist ships tried to surround them, Marcus did something truly insane. He ordered his fleet to fly directly toward the enemy flagship, broadcasting a message of peace. The separatist commander hesitated. This made no sense. No military strategy supported flying towards certain death while asking for friendship. That hesitation cost him 3 ships. By the time the battle ended, Kythros Station was captured. Marcus had not lost a single vessel. Across the Dominion, news of the victory spread. A single primitive human, had defeated a separatist fleet against impossible odds. Not through superior firepower, but through sheer unpredictability. Kytheris received the report in her command center. She read it 3 times, trying to understand what had happened. Her calculations showed that Marcus's attack should have failed completely. "How?" she whispered. "How did he do this?" Her advisors had no answers. For the first time in her long life, Princess Kytheris felt something she had never experienced before: fear. The war continued for 3 more months. Marcus and his small human fleet became legends across the Dominion. They appeared without warning, struck impossible targets, and disappeared before the separatists could respond. They freed prisoners and treated them with kindness. They saved civilians from destroyed stations. They showed mercy to enemies who surrendered. This was not how Velithari fought wars. This was something new, something strange, something that the separatists could not understand or predict. Kytheris became obsessed with Marcus Cole. She studied every battle, every decision, every strange human tactic. She assigned entire teams to analyze his behavior. She built computer models to predict his next move. Nothing worked. The human did not follow logic. He followed his heart. And hearts, Kytheris was learning, could not be calculated. Meanwhile, the tide of war was turning. Velithari soldiers who had joined the separatists began to question their leaders. They had heard stories about the humans, how they showed kindness to prisoners, how they fought with courage but not cruelty, how they believed that even enemies could become friends. Some soldiers began to desert. They crossed battle lines and joined the Queen's forces. When asked why, they gave the same answer: "We want to feel what the humans feel." Kytheris watched her army shrink. She watched her sisters argue and blame each other. She watched her perfect rebellion crumble because of one small human who refused to fight like everyone expected. In her darkest moments, alone in her command chamber, Kytheris wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. Marcus knew the war needed to end. Every day brought more death, more destruction, more suffering. Velithari were killing Velithari. Families were torn apart. Ancient cities were reduced to crystal dust. The longer the war continued, the weaker both sides became. He made a decision that shocked everyone. "I am going to surrender to Kytheris," he announced. Sithara's crystal form blazed with alarm. "Marcus, no. She will kill you." "Maybe," Marcus admitted. "But maybe not. I have to try." Queen Valindra studied him with ancient eyes. "You would give your life to end this war?" "I would give my life for a chance to end this war," Marcus corrected. "There is a difference. I do not plan to die, Your Majesty. I plan to talk." "Talk?" The Queen sounded confused. "You wish to negotiate?" "No," Marcus shook his head. "I wish to understand. And I wish to be understood." Kytheris started this war because she is afraid. She is afraid of change, afraid of losing her people's identity, afraid of a future she cannot control. I want to show her that she does not need to be afraid. Sithara grabbed his hands. Her crystal form was flickering with colors of fear and love. "You might not come back," she whispered. "I might not," Marcus agreed. He touched her face gently. "But you taught me something important, Sithara. You taught me that some things are worth risking everything for. Peace is one of those things." He kissed her forehead, a human gesture that made her entire form glow with soft pink light. Then he left to surrender himself to the enemy. Kytheris could not believe the report. The human was approaching her flagship alone. No weapons. No escort. No tricks. He was simply flying a small shuttle directly toward her, broadcasting a request to talk. "It is obviously a trap," her advisor said. "Scan the shuttle," Kytheris ordered. They scanned it. Nothing. No weapons, no explosives, no hidden technology. Just one human in a tiny ship. He is insane, one advisor muttered. Kitharis was not sure. She had studied Marcus Cole for months. He was many things, stubborn, unpredictable, emotional, but he was not insane. Everything he did had purpose. Let him board, she commanded. Her advisors protested. She silenced them with a look. Marcus Cole walked onto her flagship, alone. Guards surrounded him immediately, their crystal weapons ready, but he did not seem afraid. He simply looked around with curious eyes, studying everything. Kitharis met him in her private chamber. She wanted no witnesses for this conversation. "You are either the bravest being I have ever met," she said, "or the most foolish." Marcus smiled slightly. "Your mother said the same thing. Do not compare me to my mother." Kitharis's form flickered with anger. "She has betrayed everything our people stand for. Has she?" Marcus asked quietly. "Or has she simply tried to save your people from extinction?" Kitharis froze. "What do you know about that?" "I know about the resonance," Marcus said. "I know your people are slowly dying. I know that bonds are weakening, that each generation becomes more isolated, more cold. I know that you started this war because you are terrified of what humans represent, change that you cannot control." He stepped closer, and the guards raised their weapons. But Kitharis waved them back. "I also know something else," Marcus continued. "I have seen your early records. I have seen images of you from centuries ago, laughing with your sisters, curious about the universe, full of wonder. You were different then, Kitharis. You were alive in ways you have forgotten how to be." Kitharis's crystal form trembled. No one had spoken to her like this in thousands of years. "That princess still exists," Marcus said softly. "She is buried under 4,000 years of court politics and survival. But she is still there. I came here because I believe she deserves a chance to live again." Silence filled the chamber. Kitharis looked at this small, fragile human. He had walked into enemy territory, completely defenseless, just to tell her that he believed in her, that he believed she could be better. It was the most illogical thing she had ever witnessed. It was also the most beautiful. Her crystal form flickered with colors she had not shown in centuries, blues and greens and soft gold. Emotions she had suppressed for so long that she had forgotten their names. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you care what happens to me?" Marcus smiled gently. "Because that is what humans do. We see the best in people, even when they cannot see it themselves. We believe in second chances. We never give up on anyone." Kitharis was silent for a very long time. Then she gave an order that ended the war. Epilogue: the Treaty of Resonance was signed 1 month later. Humans and Velathari would learn from each other. They would share technology and culture and stories. They would build a future together, different species united by something stronger than logic. Queen Valindra laughed for the first time in 2,000 years. The sound echoed through the crystal throne room, and those who heard it wept with joy. Marcus and Cythera stood together, watching ships from both species pass peacefully through space. Their bond glowed strong between them, proof that connection could exist anywhere, between anyone. "Do you ever regret crashing on my planet?" Cythera asked. Marcus held her crystal in hand and smiled. "Best malfunction I ever had. The end."